old school.
How everything started off for him and just what influences his musical creativity is what he revealed to Slices while on a visit to Berlin.
My influence of music goes way back in the early 80s. Kraftwerk, definitely, the Computer World album, a lot of Prince, a lot of funk, soul, R&B from back in the early 80s. And mixing all that together with the Kraftwerk beat, because the numbers beat is really what turned me on to electronic music. Well, back in the 80s, it was hardly any kind of musical thing going on. Everything was just coming to be. A friend of mine named Africa Islam flew in from New York, and I met with him, and he kind of told me that Planet Rock was not made with a drummer; it was made with a drum machine. And I was real curious on what is a drum machine. So he took me down to the music center and showed me the 808, and I programmed the numbers beat, the Planet Rock beat on there, and I was in love with it. So I had to buy it right on the spot, and ever since then, I've been in love with the 808. Well, in today's market, there's a lot of drum machines, a lot of new equipment out, a lot of programs for the computer, and I hear a lot of things, and every time I make a record with something new, it just doesn't have the soul. It doesn't have that warmth, that feel that I grew up to love. And I always go back to the 808. So, I mean, I use different programs on the computer, like Fruity Loops program, but I'm using the 808 sounds, and so I might as well use the real 808. Because the real 808 sounds are just a little bit better. That analog has just a little edge on all the digital sounds. I call my music dance music, and I also call it old school. When I went to Europe, everybody was saying electro, 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 and I was like, okay, I can hear electronic, electro, and they used to make these greatest hits with electro written on the side of the album cover. And in Europe, they used to sell a lot of those, and my songs were featured on a lot of those electro records, and I kind of think that's where they got the name electro from, and electro is just music with electronic instruments, and I can see where they got the name electro from. So in Europe, I'm pretty much an electro king because I was one of the first ones from America to come out here with that kind of music, along with Afrika Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force and Grandmaster Flash, and them did Scorpio. Pretty Tony did some stuff out of Miami. Juan Atkins did some stuff out of Detroit. So everybody has their own pioneers. Like on the West Coast, I was one of the first, and it kind of came out here, and that's how I became one of the kings of electro. But on the West Coast, they still call me old school hip hop. No, it's still the same. If you go to any club, I guess, in the world, every DJ knows who I am because they mix my records in with every kind of music. And that's pretty cool. I went to a techno club one time, and they're just playing a lot of techno, and then all of a sudden my song came in. Oh, I'm like, wow, you sped it up real fast, but it was there, and I was like, it's amazing. When I made the music, my engineer told me to make sure you make the record the way you want to make the record. Make it perfect. So in the future, it will sound just as good as the music coming out in the future. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? So we made sure we EQ'd each instrument really, really well. So if you played it today, you can play a new record today, and it still compares to one of those new records. So we really tried hard in EQing the record and making it sound as clean as possible and as big as possible for the future. And today, 25 years later, it's still being played in the clubs. And the young kids are thinking it's a new record because of the sound, but it's the way we EQ'd it and the way we planned it to be for the future. There's a big difference in the way records were made back in the day and the way records are made now. Back in the day, you had a big studio with a lot of analog equipment. Now, to me, analog definitely sounds better than digital all day long. And when you have a lot of analog equipment, you have a big mixing board with big speakers, and you're getting all this sound. And the sound is not coming to you like this. The sound is coming to you like this. It's a big, round, analog sound. Today's digital is like this. And it's uncomparable. So when you listen to an old record that's made in a real studio on vinyl, it sounds so good. And you hear a song made today by some new cats. It's all made on the computer, mastered on the computer, and put out on a CD or MP3. It has no life. It's just a clone. But the music of the old days had a birth. It grew and it lived forever. I think the new electro producers like Aux 88 and Dynamix, they're great. I mean, they have made a name for themselves, and I love it. I mean, I listen to different groups on MySpace, and I listen to the ones that never had a producer or never had an engineer, never even been to a studio. They just made the beats at home. And I can hear the ones that have potential, the ones that if they had the studio, they can make great hits. And I hear the ones just starting out who think they're stars, but they're just starting out. And I know, okay, he's 6 months away from making a real good record. He's 6 years away from making a great record. All right, he's ready right now.
We keep it hot, burning hot. We keep it hot, burning hot. We keep it hot, burning hot. We keep it hot, yeah, burning hot.
I can get inspired by a lot of different things. Back when I first started making records, I was always inspired with a new girlfriend. I mean, the new girlfriend, you know, when you're young and you find somebody new, you get these feelings. Well, when I got those feelings, I went to the studio and I created a record. And some girls were good, some girls were bad, some girls were really naughty, and, you know, so you get different feelings, different inspirations from that, and you can write from it. So I wrote from growing up in South Central Los Angeles. You know, you get a different vibe from if you grew up in an urban neighborhood. And from all my inspirations, I mean, just listening to a song or watching a movie, I get inspired from a lot of different things. I like to draw. I like to write. I like to make music. So I'm very creative in a lot of different ways. So I can get inspiration pretty much from anything. Just by being in a record store is really, really, really creative, you know. You can put on a record and you say, okay, I like that beat. You put on another record, I like that vocoder. You put on another record, I like the melody of a horn. You might hear a horn go, bam, 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 and you say, okay, I like that. I go, you can make a whole song just from something that you hear in a record store. So that's why I really miss old-fashioned record stores with record players, and you can hear things and you get a lot of ideas. You know, every time I get a day or two off after a show and I'm still in the city, I like to go walk around and get in the culture, especially in Europe. You know, it's really a lot of culture out here. And I happened across this record store and I saw some wonderful things. The owner told me a lot of wonderful things, a lot of history, and I didn't even know they had electronic music other than Kraftwerk out here. And he showed me a couple of albums, and it's beautiful. And then every time I get a chance, I like to go into record stores and find something old that I'm missing, or find a third or fourth copy just in case I lose one or scratch one. It's wonderful being a DJ, and I love it with all my heart. Well, the record business has changed a lot since I started. Making the records and bringing the records to the record stores, that was my love. I love going to the record stores like the one I'm in right now, and looking through records, selling records, and just people coming in, buying records, DJs coming in, the owner telling them what just came in this week or this month. That was being a real DJ. The music business was pure love back then. When the money came, it was wonderful, but I'm only doing it for the love of music. I'm only doing it for the love of electro. So I'm putting it out there for all the young DJs, all the old school DJs. Putting it out there for them. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing it for the love. And next year in 2009, I will be releasing one 12-inch vinyl a month in all of 2009 for the 25th anniversary of Egyptian Empire Records. And I'm also going to sneak in an album in that year also.